take a stand. Do you wanna live? Or do you wanna die? Take a stand. Get up. Refusing limitations, make the greatness. Spiritual courage is the genius and its maintenance. Become a rule as battle is present. Look around, see the system failed it. Energy is shot, go liberate the soul. Resurrected from the tomb, my agon flow smooth. Taking back our creation, balancing the nation. Steady in creation, casualties at war. Behold the pale horse, first defense and strides. In keeping your family tight with the strength of the Garveyites. Unity and community sustains our future lives. Self-sufficiency, family, time to make a living by community gain. Self-sufficiency, family, time to make a living, sure maintain. Self-sufficiency, family, gather up, make a life purpose, claim it. Break it, it's the time to make it. Leaving modern day enslavement, tap into the matrix. Exit what is fatal, breathing from the navel. Life is in the angle, which is not a tangle. Many was can breathe, so whether show or shackle. Cap for the free, boy, I grip his mango. Penetrate the panel, the tears in the helix. Many come to free it, no need to believe it. Genetics show the secret, when do we free up? What time is really free? Put all of your time against your family tree. Indeed a tragedy, my next seed won't receive amongst the skits feed. Self-sufficiency, family, time to make a living by community gain. Self-sufficiency, family, time to make a living, true maintain. Self-sufficiency, family, gather up, make a life purpose, claim it. Dollar bill won't make me in the here and now. Freedom is the key to a prosperous life. Amongst the melanite, conquer this fight. My adversary has me on flight. Show you what's right, lesson and strife. Living godlike, own land, plan again, self-sustaining and strife. So the next generation won't beg it think twice. Moving with confidence, playing action and production inside. Self-sufficiency, family, time to make a living by community gain. Self-sufficiency, family, time to make a living, true maintain. Self-sufficiency, family, gather up, make a life purpose, claim.
Peace, everyone. Welcome to another segment of Thunderground Thursday on enlightenment and transformation. And I am your conductor on this evening, Chief Yuya. I want to welcome you all, of course, into this experience known as enlightenment and transformation, and more specifically into the experience known as Thunderground Thursday. And on this evening, we're going to be dealing with the movie that we addressed some strongs ago, known as Dropsquad or the Dropsquad. I think it's just Dropsquad. But I want to, of course, greet everyone who I see on the call lines and those of you who are listening in from YouTube right now and those who come in later on archives, especially those of you on archives, because, you know, I know a lot of people have been, personally, have been sharing with me that they accredit a lot of their sustenance, we'll say spiritual sustenance, to enlightenment and transformation, you know, and the information that's put forth and just the whole vibration. So, you know, I always kind of give a special shout out to the archive people because, you know, I know what the archives mean for some people. Like a lot of people tell me that they set up playlists and they play them at night when they're sleeping so they can kind of soak the information in overnight. And I know we also have a whole workout crew of enlightenment transformation people who have let me know that, you know, we listen to enlightenment and transformation, or I listen to enlightenment and transformation while I'm working out. So I always like to give a little extra energy to those archivists because I know that the show means something different to each and every one depending on how you access it. Okay, but for those of you who would like to call in, this is a live show, as we have been doing now for maybe almost 2 months now, or over 2 months. You guys know how I am with time, so it could have been 3 weeks. But So if you feel to call in, feel free to. If not, that's fine too, because the Thursdays and Fridays show, I'm not always used to call-ins anyway. So, I'm prepared either way. But feel free. You can call in at 347-945-7680, 347-945-7680, and hit the number 1. And you can be heard. You can talk. You can listen. You can ask a question, whatever it is. Just do me a favor. Don't try to take the show over. Know when to get off. And if you have a vision or something that came to you, try to work on abbreviating it. Sometimes people like to ask 10-minute questions. And I can't always. Well, I don't always want to retain all of that. I could, but I just don't want to. So let's always try to be respectful of those who are in the queue and would like to express themselves to the family as well. But in any event, like I said, we're speaking about the movie Dropsquad. And when I first did this segment, I did promise that there would be a part 2. And namely because, again, there was so many different points that I could hit. And like I said, I've come to the place with the movie Decoding where I do actually enjoy decoding movies that maybe not may not have as strong esoteric or metaphysical value as others, because again, when you're dealing with the decoding of the esoteric and the metaphysical, you find that after a while things start going in circles, just in terms of what you're going to say, because mainly they're all either based off of the Western Kabbalic system or they're based off the Osirian story. That's pretty much every movie is going to be the same thing. It's going to be an unlikely hero who in the beginning of the movie is somewhat at peace with their life. Something comes in immediately and disrupts that peace, and now they're forced to be a hero. They have to go on a journey, and usually when they go on that journey, they're stripped down from what they were before, but they'll have some type of guide or accompaniment during that journey that will help them get back to a better place than where they were before. I mean, it's the Osirian story. So and of course you always have your little elements where there's the conspiracy aspects that you can throw in there and whatnot, but the truth is, and that's kind of what I want to speak about today in terms of perspective. Sometimes we can take in a lot of that type of material and that type of information in terms of the conspiracy work and things like that, but if we're not really guided and focused in terms of what the goals are, it means nothing. And often you guys will hear me say, when people call in, I'll say, okay, well, what are you going to do with this information when I give it to you? And Sister Kim had kind of spoken about that yesterday in Anu Asafo, where she spoke about people just, kind of obtaining information for the sake of obtaining information, but not really wanting to do anything with it. And Dropsquad actually highlighted that whole concept pretty well. There's a lot in this movie. I mean, as far as movies go, it wasn't really a great movie. As far as acting goes, acting wasn't all that hot. The writing wasn't. I mean, really, when you really look at the movie, it almost seems like the only character they actually wrote dialogue for was Eric LaSalle's character. I mean, it could have just been pretty much a one-man show, because most of the dialogue outside of that was pretty sparse. So it wasn't a movie that was superbly written or superbly directed. The score was pretty decent though. The music, they did a really good job on the music. The idea was kind of cool, but there was certainly it certainly had some elements missing that could have been included into it. But when you're going on a learning journey, you got to understand, and this is very important right here, basically also based on something that happened earlier today with a alleged student. And I say alleged because, like I tell you guys, everyone who claims to be my student, I don't claim them as my student. People have to understand that when you're really serious about your learning and you're serious about the acquisition of knowledge, then you got to understand that things are not going to be spoon-fed to you. And if you want it spoon-fed to you, then this isn't even in you. This isn't for you. Because this journey and this road of self-development and self-perfecting is one where you have to dig. You have to do the digging. Even if you have someone like me who's done a lot of digging and is revealing certain clues to you, I'm still not going to dig for you, because there's a part of the earth that will be your best part. There's a part of the earth that you have to mine in order so that you can have a gold mind. Okay, so you have to do the work for yourself. And some people are just not prepared for that, especially when they come out of institutions of Western education or Western institutionalism. Really is what it is. Many things are spoon fed to you because what's developed into you is a very lazy sense of critical thinking. In fact, the critical thinking is not taught at all. You're just trained to maintain a certain type of order. So you're given a certain type of order, even in the learning process. And you're never going to get it that way. Never. That's why people who even call the show all the time with very basic questions that they can answer themselves, I can tell you those are the people that you're not going to get anywhere with this. You're not going anywhere, and that may not feel good to hear, or you may not believe. Chances are you don't believe me. Chances are you think this is, that's what he's saying. But you'll see. You'll see everyone flying by you. And for some reason, I just can't get it. That's because you refuse to put your hands into the soil, dig, and pull up the gems and the minerals that are for you. You're lazy, and this isn't for you. This is not a work, whether it be spiritual work or whether it be one of cultural reclamation. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for those who are devoid of stamina, and it's certainly not for those who are mentally or emotionally lazy. So sometimes that becomes a bit of a challenge for people when they realize that you have to not only be adaptable, but you have to be receptive and flexible. And you've heard me say it many times, flexibility is the key to enlightenment. So you have to be able to take information in different forms, and you have to be flexible enough to bend and switch and move when time dictates. Now, of course, this ties into what the theme of the movie was about. The theme of the movie was basically about the changing times and those who were stuck in a certain way and basically can't get out of their own way because they're not flexible enough or have the ability to self-re-engineer based on the changing times. Now, we may call that adaptability, but sometimes we have to be careful with that idea, that term of adaptability, because especially for those of us listening right now who are melanin dominant, that is our greatest tool and it is our greatest curse. We are highly adaptable. We are quick to just change based on the environment instead of changing and affecting the environment. And a lot of times when we do change and affect the environment, it's more chaotic than need be. We're not changing and bringing a degree of sanity, but it's something else that we're perpetuating based on an earlier seed that was planted inside of us. But always understand when it comes to learning, sometimes you're going to watch a movie like Dropsquad where it's not just handed to you. You got to dig a little bit. And always understand this. Every time you're digging for an answer, you're putting the work in, you're planting a seed. You see, if you want to be a master knower, you must be a master student, because the master student is the seed that's needed to be planted in order to become the master knower. Okay, you can't just jump to master knower without being master student. In the same instance, you can't receive love in your life without planting a seed of love. That's a huge mistake that many make in this path. Even in this work, some people use their spirituality or their consciousness as a skip ball for universal love, And when I say universal love, I'm not speaking about that love that I know some people promote, which is really polyamory, or some would call bisexuality. Not that, but universal love, when you're able to see straight through the outer surface and core of an energy and go straight to the energy of it, whether that energy be malevolent or whether it be benevolent, but that's the universality of it. But you can never, ever receive love until you give love. The giving love or the planting of love into an environment, into a person, is the seed that's needed in order to receive it. That's a little secret. That's a little secret, little trick for all of you out there who are feeling unloved and you want a relationships and you're going to Oshun, so Oshun will bring this, or you're with someone and you feel like they're not loving enough. I'm going to tell you the reason you're feeling that is because you're not loving. You've planted no seeds of love in your life. The same thing with people who are bored. I had someone say that to me recently, and they were like, they called me, someone I hadn't spoke to in a while, and they were like, I'm bored. What are you up to? And I said, don't call me when you're bored. And they, of course, they're like, oh, you always got something funny to say to people. And I was like, well, if you're bored, it's because you're a boring person. But I'm not a boring person. I'm never bored. So why would you bring your boredom over into my world? You stay over there with your boring self, and I'm going to stay over here with my internally exciting self. I'm never bored. Even if I'm just sitting somewhere in a room, it could be exciting. I could just close my eyes and go into my mind. Or I could just look at people or the colors on the wall, or I could look and see how many spirits I see in them. I'm not going to be bored unless I am boring, So the two go hand in hand. So it's the same thing. You're not going to feel unloved unless you're not loving. You're not going to be in a situation when you feel like you're not getting it if you're not giving it. So when it comes to spirituality or cultural information, I don't get it. It's because you're not giving any of it. You're not walking on it. You're not projecting it in your everyday life. You're trying to be a regular human, with all of its frailties and its defective trappings. But at the same time, you want the universe to unload and open up all of these great mysteries to you. Won't work. That's how one of the reasons, again, or one of the evidence and ways that I know people who are actually taking my class and people who are not. Because if you're still a jerk, if you come into my class and you're a jerk and you're rude and you're nasty and you got serious character defects, and you tell me, yeah, man, I'm halfway through your course and you're still the same way, you're not taking my course. I know you're not. You're flying through it. You're not really studying what you're supposed to study, because there's no way you could even listen to these segments and still be a jerk. Another secret. Okay. So if you're not investing, you're not going to get any returns. So I say that again. Here's a long soliloquy, right? It's a long prelude for speaking about this movie, Dropsquad. But, that's for everyone who also hasn't watched it, who knew the show was coming up and like, get to it, right? That's why you're not going to get it, because you didn't put the investment in and just saying, I'm going to sit down for an hour and a half and watch this movie. All right. So I'm just kind of giving you some study tips. These are really study tips, what I'm talking about. These are some of the reasons why maybe you might be struggling in certain areas and things like that. But anyway, like I said, we were speaking about Dropsquad last time, and the cast was really cool. I mean, it was people I like, some of the old school 90s people that you don't really see too much anymore. It had Eric LaSalle in it, of course, as I mentioned earlier. Vondi Curtis Hall, Ving Rhames was in it. Vanessa Williams was in it. All right, not that the other Vanessa Williams, the 90210 Vanessa Williams, the Soul Food Vanessa Williams. That's kind of messed up too. I wish I wouldn't have introduced her like that when I'm doing a live show. That's like her claim to fame has been, that's her tagline. Whenever you say that Vanessa Williams, you say, oh, Vanessa Williams was in it. Oh, no, not that Vanessa Williams. You got to say that after it every time you say it. It's kind of messed up. But, I mean, hey, her biggest claim to fame is that she is not the other Vanessa Williams, the pageant winner and the Brian McKnight song singer and the Rick Fox wife, Vanessa Williams. So the other one, who was in Soul Food and 90210 and who also said Rockabye Baby and New Jack City. But she was in it, and some of the Spike Lee regulars, because Spike Lee was actually the executive producer. He wasn't the first producer or the writer, but he executive produced the piece. But you had Eric LaSalle, and he played Bruford Jameson. I couldn't remember his name last time because they kept calling him by his nickname Boo Boo. But he played Bruford was his name, and Vondi played Rocky, right? Ving Rhames is Garvey. Vanessa Williams, she played Molly, and then you had a guy who played Huey in there, and X is played by Leonard Thomas, and Flip, who was a key person, believe it or not, and I'm going to explain why in this whole series. He was played by Afemi Milami, so Nigerian name, right? And there's a bunch of other people in it, but it's cool little movie, cool little 90s feel movie. And so here's the thing, right? And one of the reasons I paused on doing part 2, because I've also discovered something else about me in movie breakdowns, because I've been doing them for I don't know how decades, man. I don't remember the first movie I broke down, but I've been doing these movie breakdowns for a long time, and I've realized that after doing them for so many years that I don't like doing scene by scenes anymore like I used to, and I realized maybe even some of that scene by scene stuff was like maybe just at the time when I used to do them, it might have been a little irresponsible on my part, because you got to let people again dig for their own gems in the earth. They got to do their own digging. So, and you probably some of you who are repeated listeners, that's kind of my style anyway. Even when people are calling into the shows and whatnot, that I try not to just hand every answer right into their hands. I try not to raise spoiled students, but I try to teach them how to think as opposed to giving them what they should be thinking. ANU is not a cult that's driven by my own will. ANU is a culture, and I have no problem with cults, just so you know. But ANU is not a cult that's driven by my own will and all of the hypotheses that I've come up with single-handedly. Okay, it's a method to get back home. So in order to establish that method as really being valid, then there has to be individuals who are willing to test and try out the method. Okay. So that is what we're working through. So anyway, so those are some of the key characters in the movie, right? And I'm gonna get to, like I said, to what I think I want to highlight, and then when you guys watch it, you'll have stuff that you may see that you caught or whatever. So the part 1, I pretty much gave a synopsis of who the Dropsquad is. I'm not going to go through all of that. They abduct people, they deprogram them, and try to bring them back to their right minds, right? So that and Dropsquad stood for deprogramming and racial restoration of pride. Deprogramming and restoration of pride. Okay, that was a Dropsquad. I almost forgot what the DROP stood for. Okay, so that was basically, in a nutshell, what they were trying to do. They were trying to deprogram people who had kind of went on a mission of assimilation into wider society, right? And tried to restore pride in themselves again. Right, that was the whole mission, and they used really some very brutal tactics to do that. Even though one of their predominant doctrines and points was that we can't hit people, we can't beat them up, we can't beat them back into themselves. We have to kind of talk to them, but it really was still very brutal because they would abduct them, tie them up, paint them, throw things on them, pour beer on them. For instance, with Bruford's character, they kept rubbing his face with Oreo cookies, so it was still it was kind of thuggish, but that's neither here nor there. That's up to one's interpretation of how much they feel was actually needed, and whatever, right? But here's the thing. There's some key lines in there that I just want to highlight, and then I want to talk about for a second. There was a piece in the movie where Rocky, his full name was Rocky Severs. Okay, pay attention to all that stuff. That's good stuff there. Rocky Severs. Okay, kind of like Savers or Savior. And then you had Bruford Jameson Jr., BJ Jr., BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But Bruford Jameson, they called him Boo Boo. And there was one line in there where where Rocky says, "You and me, brother, we're the same." You see, and he said, some of us make it over the wall. We just need you to throw a rope back or a hand back or something like that. And there was a lot of very interesting, like, to me, I think this movie was somewhat of a test of our own consciousness. And I'll tell you why. Because Dropsquad was the type of movie that if you're an immature revolutionary, you could easily and immediately get very excited over what they were doing and what they were saying. And we have a lot of immature revolutionaries out here. Don't get me wrong now. Not everybody who puts on the red, black, and green and throws a fist up is necessarily thinking out what it is with this that they're supposed to be doing. So if you look at it and you try to sympathize with Eric LaSalle's character, Boo Boo, as he was called, or Bruford, he was saying that, listen, I've worked hard to get where I'm at. And one of the key things he said is, how can I get these people, talking about white society or the corporate world, to trust me, and at the same time have you all trust me? I can't have it both ways, right? So that was like his whole argument. Like, I'm just trying to make it out here. I'm taking these bumps and bruises, and in this process, what you really see some very interesting disparages, or some very common scenarios that we see in the quote unquote conscious community, right? You got those who strive to make it to a certain place, and they feel in order to get there, they had to abandon some of their roots in order not to be spotted by really the enemy. And then you have those who were left behind who feel like you're supposed to take us with you. Okay. And an argument could really be made on either side if you're looking at it from a mature standpoint, as opposed to, yeah, he was just a sellout. They needed to drop him and depro because he got to do something for his people. Well, the key thing is you got to look at here is that with this movie Dropsquad, you had Bruford, or Boo Boo, who worked in advertising, right? And he had ran these different campaigns like Mumbling Jack and General Otis, I think was the name of the other one. And they were both obviously very disrespectful to the melanin dominant community. They perpetuated certain stereotypes, A, B, C, and D, right? So, but he was one of those people who thought, like, in order for me to make any type of real change, I have to get into the system first. And then once I get to a certain place, once these people trust me, then I can start introducing some other things, kind of like the movie Bamboozle, but of course, that's unrealistic. That never works. And a lot of times people just use that as an excuse to just stay in those environments. Really, they just want to be in those environments. They don't want to tell you that. They feel a little guilty about it. So she said, nah, once I get on, everybody gonna get on. We got to get our money first, though. It's all about economy. You can't have a revolution without money. Those same typical arguments, right? But either way, an argument can be made on either side if we're looking at this whole real debate here for a second, right? So, like I said, there was a key line where Rocky said, "You and I are the same thing." Now, why are you and I the same thing? What is he saying there? Basically, as the watcher of this work, he's saying that you and I are both outdated. You and I both have really outlived our usefulness. Like, there was a time when he first got dropped, he was like, "Come on, man, I got to get back to work. I'm getting ready to close on this big account. And Ving Rhames' character was like, "Oh man, they won't even know you gone." They're trying to show him, like, listen, man, you're not as important as you think you are. It was even a conversation he was having with his girlfriend when his cousin Flip, right, played by Afimo, wanted to work at his firm. He was like, "Man, just give me a letter of recommendation." And he was like, "I don't want to give him a letter of recommendation because if I let him in here, he's going to screw it up. And he's going to make me look bad in front of these people. Because right now, these people," and of course, we're talking about white people or corporate America, "they feel that I'm safe. They don't think I'm the same type of black man that they see on the corner or the same type of black man that's depicted in these very disrespectful ads that we run. So now if I bring my cousin in here, who was also, if you notice, was played by a person of a darker hue, Afimo Amilami's character, whose real name was Burrow Mangum, but in the movie his nickname was Flip. Now that name was critical, Remember that name, Flip. That was his nickname. Okay. And Bruford was Boo Boo, like a ghost. Boo Boo, not really there. He's a ghost in the machine. Okay, remember these names. It's important. So he was played by, he was darker brother and everything like that, right? So here's the thing, though. So he was like, look, I don't want to put him in this environment because if I do, they're gonna know that I'm black. Basically. And a lot of you who have worked in a corporate environment like myself, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you who are melanin dominant, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've worked in those environments with people who maybe you were conscious while you were in that environment and you saw other people who were melanin dominant. And as soon as you see them, maybe there's like a sigh of relief, like, oh, good. There's somebody I can talk to at lunch or somebody who maybe will show me the ropes because I'm like a, Dr. Khalid would say, I'm like a fly in a bowl of buttermilk. I'm the only dark face up in here. And then they see you and you notice that they go out of their way not to see you. They, especially when they're walking down hallway, whatever, with their non-black counterparts. So then you realize, okay, I'm really all alone. This person doesn't want to be identified as black. And they know once a couple of us get together and form any type of caucus, sometimes certain people get nervous. Certain people get nervous, don't let us, like, if there's at least 5 of us, you get like 5 black men or 5 black men and women, and we're standing in one space, don't let us start like talking a little loud, giving each other pounds while we're talking and, hugs and all that stuff and soul brother handshakes. People get real nervous when they see that level of agreeance and accordance with melanin dominant people. And there's at least 5 of us, because 3 is like, okay, I'm a little nervous, but I'm okay because, hey, there may be a singing group, but then you put 5, it's like, oh, what the heck are they doing over there? And then that's when someone will call the police and they'll say, hey, get off the corner, disperse. So a lot of people have that fear that, no, don't do that up in here. I got a nice easy ride, don't mess up my thing. So he didn't want to bring his his cousin Flip into the situation. And they made a point in the movie by saying that they were more like brothers, even though they were cousins. They were more like brothers, right? But again, let's go back to the key statement that Rocky Severs, played by Vondi Curtis Hall, said. You and I are just alike. Because you had Bruford Jameson Jr., Eric LaSalle. He was at the top. Let's just look at it that way. We'll say he was at the left. Then you had Vondi, or Rocky, was at the right. Eric LaSalle's at the far left. Vondi's at the far right. Okay. And both of them are so extreme in their stances that they have now become impotent in their work. And they have people around them who are seeking to make a change that they're either avoiding or they're ignoring. Okay, there was another young lady who was in the work. I think her name is Paula. No, she played Kim, real pretty sister who played in A Different World. You guys know who I'm talking about. But she played Kim in A Different World. She was Denise's roommate. Real thick, pretty chocolate thing. And I can't remember her name. It was Charnel Brown. That's her name. I think that's her name. Charnel Brown. And she played Kyra. I think that's her name. I could be off. But hey, just Wikipedia it and you'll get everybody's name. But anyway, so there was her and there was another sister where there was an opportunity that Bruford could have stood up for them when they were like, listen, now this company's getting ready to go. They're going too far. Like, they're really disrespecting our people. And Bruford was like, come on, baby, it's not that deep. He's like, come on, let's just get this money. Come on now. So he was kind of becoming outmoded in that environment as far as being able to cause any type of productive change. Then you had Rocky on the far left, who we had an instance with a character named Fat Money. Right. And Fat Money was like a local drug dealer. He was played by another 90s brother. You can see in a while. He's played by a brother by the name of Tico Wells. Tico Wells is like always he always plays like the fast talking slick guy in a lot of different, 90s shows and stuff like that. Tico Wells. But I'm kind of ashamed I remember all these people's names. But anyway, so he played a character by the name of Fat Money. Long story short, he was somebody that they dropped. The programming was just not, or the deprogramming, excuse me, was just not working on Fat Money. And Fat Money, after they released him, shortly after, he was shot dead in the streets. So one of the Drop Squad crew members asked Rocky. He was like, "Hey man, when he gave him the news, he was like, yeah, Fat Money was killed." And he asked him, he was like, "Hey man, did you even talk to him?" I don't know if it was Huey or XB that spoke to him, but he was like, "Did you ever get a chance to talk to him?" Like basically saying, "What are you doing here at this point?" Because you're supposed to be in here, you're supposed to be in touch with what's going on and doing effective work, but you're so wrapped up in other stuff that you've kind of lost sight of the mission. So again, the key thing is we're pretty much in the same place. Bruford is in corporate America. He's losing sight and losing direction because he's assimilating into something that's non-effective. Then you have Rocky that's assimilating into something that's non-effective. Whereas Bruford is assimilating into the dominant society or white society or even just corporate America, because I wouldn't even really call it a white-black thing. Really, it was really the corporate structure, and anybody could get it. As long as we're getting this money. And then you had Rocky, who was assimilating into an old, outdated model of the Black Revolutionary that was no longer working anymore. Okay. And they both had people around them who were being affected, being even fired from their jobs, quitting jobs, but being affected and hurt because of their inability to be flexible and change. Right. So that's why they were the same person. One was on the far left, one was on the far right. And though we may, especially those of us who were conscious, we would look at Rocky's character and be like, yeah, that brother was strong. He's powerful, doing what he's got to do. Buford was sellout. But the truth is they were both equally impotent. They were the same person. No value. Well, I don't say no value, but defects in both of them. So they both had people close to them who were trying to bring apart some new type of change. Of course, with Bruford or Boo Boo, it was his sister. I'm trying to remember the name of her character. It'll come to me. I don't remember her name right now, but I don't know. It'll come to me. But anyway, Lenora, that was her name, Lenora. I think she was played by Nicole Powell. Lenora Jameson was her name. Another sister you don't see in a lot of movies. Real nice speaking voice too. She had a real beautiful voice. But that was his sister, his blood sister, who called the Drop Squad on him. And some might even say unnecessarily, because she called the Drop Squad on him because he was straying away from what she perceived to be his home. And one of the things that he signified in the movie, he said, "This is not my home with mommy and daddy here where you still live. My home is downtown." So really, this was, again, the example of a lot of times we have the conscious people or the revolutionary, and they doing all this revolutionary activity and doing all this shouting and screaming, but they ain't even moved out of their grandparents' basement. So they're not out in the world taking the hits that everybody has to take and having to accept some of the compromises that come with being an adult, which is what Bruford's problem was. He's like, I'm trying to be successful. I'm trying to do things in life. And at the same time, you're telling me I'm a sellout. But the truth is this, you have not given me anything else to resolve to. This is the structure that I have to go to because maybe I like living downtown. Maybe I like driving a nice car. Like, he had a $500 watch on that his cousin was commenting on. I like having my $500 watch. I don't want to live out here in the country with you guys, but you have not created a structure for me where I can have the things that I want and excel to the levels that I want in my career without compromising. Because like he said in the movie, he said, I'm the one out here taking all the shots. I'm the one out here getting knocked around. You'll find that even in true revolutionary work or true teaching work, there's a moment of clarity that comes. Man, this isn't, when you at home and somebody's financing you and supporting you, even those of you who started organizations and you have corporate sponsorship, you're still home with mommy and daddy. But when you go out there on your own, your story may change a little bit. So like he said, Lenore, you just still living here at home. What can you tell me? And there was a truism to that. So again, we have this issue again with Bruford's or Boo Boo, with Boo Boo's character being the ghost in that environment. He's moving through unseen, and his sister Lenora is really his antagonist, trying to pull him back to an environment that may not even be the most sensical. Then you have Rocky, and his antagonist was played by Ving Rhames. His name was Garvey, and he was constantly on him like, look, man, this ain't working. I'm dedicated to you. I love you. I love what we're doing, but this ain't working. You see? And he was trying to launch him into a new updated model, but that updated model required violence. And Rocky was like, man, we just not about that. Garvey would say, man, this is not the 80s. We're in the 90s now. I mean, it's 20 years ago, right? But we're in the 90s. It's a new thing going on. And these people have a different type of language that we need to speak to them. So they each had these antagonists that were trying to pull them towards a central point. And that central point was really the point of evolution, the point of the next step, not going further left, not going further right, but coming closer in towards the center. So with Bruford's character, it was his sister Lenora trying to pull him back towards the center, or pull him back towards the right. And then with Rocky's character, it was Garvey who was trying to pull him towards the left, both trying to get them to a middle point of some sanity. But who actually was living at the middle point of sanity and ascension? It was the most unassuming character of the entire movie. It was Flip, also real name Burl Mangum. But Flip, he was a character who was played by Afimo Omilami, right? And Flip was his screw up cousin who wasn't doing the right thing. Like he said, man, he was like, hook me up with a job, man. And he was like, what he said was, I can't make those white people give you a job. You got to put the application in. And once you put the application in, then I can put a recommendation in for you. But you're not even doing that. So he took so long to put the application in that it reinforced what Boo Boo or Bruford was feeling. He's like, man, I'm not putting my name behind this guy because he's going to mess up my gig here. So when it came time, when he finally, after the end of days, Flip puts his application in, Bruford doesn't give him a letter of recommendation, and in a very treacherous way, almost, one could say, right? So that was supposed to be the guilt trip that was laid on him. Yeah, man, you didn't help your cousin out when he really needed you. But here's the thing. I'm gonna show you the really perverted and reverse analogy of all of this. You didn't help him to integrate into corporate / white society like you are. Because remember, his uncle, Flip's father, was a used car salesman. He had his own dealership. He said, I'm a businessman and I like money. He's like, I like a whole heap of it, but some things are not for sale. That was the advice that he was giving Boo Boo, right? Now, Flip was just a screw up, but he was a screw up who was developing into something better. You see, he was much closer to the middle point than either one of them. He had the desires and the movement towards ascension, but at the same time, he had a sense of familial loyalty. In fact, he had a son. His wife was named Desiree, or I don't know if it was wife or if it was common law wife. I mean, same thing, whatever. His wife. Right. His wife was named Desiree, and they had just had a son. And that's why he was like, I got to get myself together. Now, Desiree was played by Iris Thomas. Iris Little Thomas is her whole name, actually. But anyway, so he was the one who was actually evolving out of all of them. He was the one who was actually making a change. He had a family. He was moving towards that middle point of sanity. He had love in his heart, but he also had a desire to do better for himself and to do something that made sense. He didn't want to completely sell out his family, but at the same time, like he said, man, just get me a job in the mailroom. I'll work my way up. But the key point I'm saying here, aside from that, that flip, and you gotta look at his name, Flip. He was, you can flip from either side when you're working from the middle point. I can flip on either side. I can be that home guy, that embarrassing, loud country guy here eating, fried chicken, like he said, with basement soot all over me. Or you can put me in that corporate environment. I'll put a tie on and I'll work the mailroom. I can flip because why? I'm flexible. And I have more flexibility than Rocky, and I have more flexibility than Boo Boo or Bruford. Okay, but here's the key point. Sometimes when we look at it, when we're always saying that people in those positions that they should help the person coming behind them, then you still validate and signify that those corporate structures are the pinnacle of achievement for your people. Because, like, Dr. Martin Luther King would say, am I integrating my people into a burning house? So why would I want to integrate and pull someone over the fence into a corporate environment that is currently promoting the destruction of my people? Wouldn't that be insane? Wouldn't you not want me to put you in that environment? So what's supposed to happen once I get into that environment? Am I supposed to pull you into it, or am I supposed to help to create other structures for those who are worthy and merit entrance into those structures? Not just give it to you because, well, help a brother out. For what? Why? I always say that, like, what certain people say, like when certain rappers or artists or athletes or whoever, moguls, they don't come back to the hood. They don't come back here. Why would I? You think about it, because I know some of these people personally, especially where some of the areas I came up in life, they're areas that produced people who are very famous today. Urban areas, of course. And people always say that, they don't come back here no more. Well, I remember when they were living here, and I remember when you stole that person's bike. I remember when y'all jumped this other one and beat him up. I remember when you slept with this one's girlfriend. Why would they come back to this? Why would they feel like they need to strengthen this and give money back and all of that? No, look at how it's treated them. That's why they're not here, because they fought like heck to never be in this environment again because of what this environment did to them. We have sometimes too much hood loyalty, and we don't have loyalty towards the vision and the idea of community. So what happens once I integrate myself into a burning building? Should I now pull more people into it? Is that the evidence of me giving back? Is that the evidence of me loving my people? Is that the evidence of me, giving my brother a hand? He ain't heavy. Because I now pull you into a dangerous environment? Or did we have a plan before I even got here? Of course, typically we don't, but this is what I'm advocating. We got to have something to resolve to, because you're going to have young men and young women who want to achieve certain things. Hey, I want to sit at a nice clean desk, and I want to be in a nice building with a nice view overlooking a fountain and this and that. Do you have something like that for me, African liberation community? No. So what you'll tell me is that I shouldn't even want that. You'll guilt me out of it. Oh man, you should want to live on some land, man, and walk around barefoot, man, and drink well water. That's what you should want if you was down for the cause. Okay, well then I just won't be down for the cause. How about that? Because there's different components and facets to this that sometimes we refuse to look at. This is why within even the metaphysical community, it gets very confusing a lot of times. And I feel that's why really there's we talk about, oh, this one's an agent, that one's an agent. Sometimes you don't realize the agents that are sitting right in front of you. And a lot of them are cowardly metaphysical teachers. I'm going to show you how. This is why I'm breaking down movies like this. They spend a lot of time breaking down movies showing conspiracy plots. And then when you raise your hand and say, well, what can we do about this? First thing they'll say, you can't do a darn thing. So why should you spend your time worried about something that you can't change? Well, then why did you just spend 4 hours teaching a lecture breaking down a movie about a conspiracy that I can't do anything about? You think about that for a second. Why is it that whenever you speak to a metaphysical teacher, they give you no answers about how to actually fix your community? They just take you deeper into the mysteries, typically useless old mysteries that may not even be applicable in this time. That's why I always tell you guys, when you're studying anything, you want to study the dispensation of it, because time dictates agenda. So some of this old stuff that you want to learn is not even relevant anymore, because there's a new dispensation of avatars that are now walking the planet. You got to get relationships with the new avatars. You want to know all these long, old, ancient energies, and they used to wear the headdress and this and that. Things have changed. And I'm not saying that the industrialization of the world has not stomped over nature and shown man's destructive intention as it pertains to nature. But at the same time, some of it is actual progress. And we don't have to shun progress because we feel like we can't be a part of it. So then we go to something ancient and mysterious because we can't build trains, or we can't build a more efficient solar cell. You know how, I mean, you want something to do? You know how inefficient solar technology is? There was a young man in Nigeria who's been developing a better solar cell. Because, you know, when you have like solar panels, your solar panels, for the amount of sun that they have hitting the surface, they're only converting about 15% of that solar energy into sun. Imagine how inefficient that is. You got this huge square of a solar panel, and only 15% of the energy, the caloric energy that actually hits it, is converted into electricity. Go fix that. And solar panels are not hard to build. I've put them together before. They're not difficult to figure out. I mean, it's just basically 1 watt squares. You just solder them to one another. You know, that's it. They're very delicate, though. They break very easily. They're made of ceramic, and then you just got to put them into a glass frame. You know, I mean, it's cheaper just to buy one, but if you want to learn how the technology works. But my point is, you can be a part of advancement. You can be a part of that. You know, you can come to that flip point or that middle point where you say, man, I got to do what I got to do. And that means I may have to be a part of this, and I may have to be a part of that. But if we have a greater and longer term vision and plan in front of us, we can do things that make sense instead of just doing things for survival. See, Rocky and Boo Boo were survivalists. They both had themselves in an environment, and they were just doing what they could to keep their head above water. Flip and the people around them were not interested in just keeping their head above water. They wanted to walk on the water. So that's a phrase we need to get rid of as a people. It's a couple ones we need to get one, but one of them is, "Hey man, how you doing?" I mean, I'm just keeping my head above water. What kind of crap is that? And one of you know, I'm talking to you, okay? Because I just got on somebody about that yesterday. So yeah, it's you, okay? Because I know either he's listening now, or he's gonna listen later. What are you keeping your head above the water for? You know, if you just keep treading water like that, you're going to get tired eventually and you're going to go under. So why don't you try to work to walk on the water? Because that is your divine birthright, that ability and that possibility. But in order to do that, you have to stop running to the extremes of the left, or running to the extremes of the right, or running to the extremes of the top and running to the extremes of the bottom. You have to go through that middle point where you can flip and be flexible. Then you'll be surprised. You'll walk on the water. You see? But part of the plan also has to revolve around, what do we give our young people to resolve to? Because everybody's not going to want to do the same thing. Everyone can't do the same thing. And if someone's not doing right in terms of what it is that they want to achieve, why should we have to give them a chance? See, even that whole idea, put me on, hook me up, I go through that all the time. I had someone ask me that recently. He was like, yeah, man, I see you be doing a lot of speaking work and like a lot of lecture games, man. Put me on to that, man. How I get on with that? Well, since when are you a public speaker? Since when do you have anything to talk about? Do you have any lectures, anything? And then since when do you have the character to go speak in front of people? And since when does your character dictate that I'd want to co-sign you? No, but just hook me up. No more hookups. I said that a while ago, and I said it loosely and lightly, but I've been slowly over the years shutting down all my hookups. No more hookups. Earn it. And if you don't earn it, you don't get it. Done. You don't understand that concept. Watch Atlas Shrugged again. I know I just referenced that show, I think Sunday. I'm going to reference it again. Reference Atlas Shrugged, because some of these betas and these deltas have to be dropped off by the wayside because they want everything handed to them. You know, that's another problem sometimes in our community. Like I said, we want our information spoon fed. We want resources just given to us. And we don't understand that it makes us soft. Too soft, not that good receptive soft, but soft in that now we can't do any work because we don't have the muscles to do it anymore. You got to earn this stuff, man. And some of it comes through fire. Some of it comes through sweat and toil. Some of it comes through bestowment, which is awesome. Sometimes you just gifted with certain things, but you know, you got to be willing to put that work in. And if you're not, man, you know, you can create any type of false and huge personas that you want for yourselves. But the truth of what it is always going to shine through. So like when he looked at Lenora, he even looked at the Dropsquad. He said, man, y'all just running around abducting people. Y'all don't even have jobs. Not to say that a job is a mark of something, because to me, don't get a job. I hate jobs. I hate the whole idea of a job. A job is really Job. If you want to understand what a job is about, read the book of Job in the Bible. That's where it comes from. It's just a debt. It's a debt system. You're contracting into a debt system with a job. But that's another conversation. That's a Masterminds Monday conversation. But what are you doing besides abducting people and yelling at them and screaming at them to try to force them to go back right again? Give me something sensible to resolve to. You find at the end of the movie that Bruford went on to start his own firm. See, that's a sensible resolution, but it doesn't mean that he was now I just got an advertising firm for my own people. No, it's just now that maybe I can pick my jobs. But, you know, even to have your own business is a difficult thing. There's going to be compromises there. It's not easy. A lot of people want these microwave businesses and stuff. It's hard. It's hard work, especially if you're serving your people and you're serving a population who's not business oriented, a community that's not business oriented, because they don't understand the things that you're going to have to do to keep your business sustained. They're not going to appreciate any of that. They're going to criticize it more than anything. So Dropsquad was a very interesting movie in that sense, because really it spoke about the joys and the dangers of assimilation, and it spoke about it from both sides. And we need to look at it from both sides, as opposed to taking such a sophomoric approach and really just approach of a neophyte, and it's got to be this way, and if it's not this way, it's not real. That's not true. That's not true at all. You know, so I would urge you and encourage you all again to actually check the film out. You know, you'll get a lot out of it in that sense. You know, you'll get a lot out of just really understanding the message that was being brought forth, and how that message translates into something for those of us who think or claim that we're a part of a movement. You know, we have to really search that movement for its validity. We have to search it for its relevancy. Really important. And we have to determine sometimes if we're just aiming and striving towards something that's old just because we're willing to be inflexible. It's like Sister Kim said Wednesday. She said she had posted one of the shows in the group once. 90 seconds. And someone has said, oh, is this the same Chief Yuya who makes up stuff or something, makes up stuff, takes E5 and makes stuff up? He's not a part of this tradition. Now, she never told me about that. I mean, I found out about that at the same time you guys did, because they keep certain things from me because I don't need to hear about it. But, you know, the thing about it is, me personally, I'm looking at that person like, you're an idiot. You don't, what do you know about the freaking tradition? The tradition is evolving and changing. 60 seconds. You don't know what you're talking about. I already know that, you know. And then if you really knew me, you would know. I mean, as far as, well, again, when does the tradition begin? Just tell me that. Answer that. And who are you to exclude or include people into said tradition? You see how sometimes immature members of a certain group could be, and we get wrapped up in the emotionality of that immaturity. Yeah, that's right. Because we about the tradition. No, you're not. You don't even know the tradition. I bet you don't even speak the language. How's your Yoruba? When's the last time you broke down Yoruba words on your Blog Talk Radio show? You know what I mean? So I'm just using that as an example. Sometimes we go so far, 10 seconds, we go so far via emotion to the right or to the left without really looking at the world that's moving around us and how effective and relevant anything that we're still doing, if it still holds any relevancy or effectiveness. Or we just stuck in this desire, this elusive false desire to be traditional, or this elusive false desire to be totally assimilated into the modern culture. And you'll find that when that desire is so strong on either side, that you will certainly become totally ineffective towards the flip in the middle point that you're going to need when you turn on like a light switch, boom, and you come into the true realization of your birthright. You're not going to be ready for it because you're so far from center. Because if you look at the movie, by the end of the movie, neither Rocky nor Boo Boo came to a great revelation as to what they should be doing. Rocky handed over the Dropsquad to his right-hand man, Garvey. And Boo Boo, he just was like, he was still angry at his sister Lenora. He was like, you didn't have to do that to me. You know, and he was like, yeah, I'm working through some things, but I never left home. So he was letting her know, like, you don't even understand me and what I've been going through. Even though he went to get his own firm and everything, because they were so far from middle point, they may never make it back home. But Flip will. That has been our Thunderground Thursday. I want to thank you all for listening thus far. And be sure to tune in tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, live again. I'll be doing Foundational Friday, and I'm going to be dealing with the Shango Baptist movement. For those of you familiar with that. All right. So that will be a good show. You're going to like it. We're going to have fun with that one. All right. Until such time.
Are you familiar with this? Are you familiar with the story of Ogun, Oshun, and Oya? Ogun was married to Oshun and Oya. This is told as a love story, but is actually describing an alchemical process. Ogun is iron, Oshun is fresh water, and Oya is air. Iron was submerged in water, causing it to rust. Then air came and separated the mixture and brought an end to the marriage. This is actually the process of corrosion and evaporation. These alchemical processes are also directly related to spiritual evolution. How? To find out, register for the next live webinar, Alchemy, on November 11th, 2015. Visit saduluhouse.com/events to RSVP and to see our list of monthly webinars for 2016. 2016 webinar topics include meditation, spiritual cleansing, astral projection, chakras, crystals, water magic, candle magic, the third eye, animal totems, dreams, and sex magic. Don't forget, check us out at saduluhouse.com/events.